What is Bayesian data analysis? If you take in the statistics, as a field has two major line of thought. One is called frequentist method. Another is called the Bayesian methods. And in frequentist method was something that was started maybe 100 years back with R.A. Fisher and Carl Pearson and people like them. Now, whereas Bayes' theorem was even older, like 1871 when the Bayes wrote his theorem, proved his theorem, and it got published posthumously. And then what happened is it sort of got sidetracked for a while, and R.A. Fisher was not very fond of Bayes' theorem. For some reason, he was not very happy with this Bayes' theorem idea when it comes to statistics, and he was more onto the idea of long run. Like basically, he had the problem with definition of probability. In the Bayes theorem, in the Bayes probability and the Bayes statistics, people think like, okay, you have some prior belief about the occurrence of the event. Maybe that belief is not very good. It is really bad about the occurrence of the event. And then event happens, or you observe the data and you update your belief. That's how, and probability based statistics works in that way. Whereas R.A. Fisher was more on that, uh, he was more on like saying that, okay, it doesn't matter what scientists believe about occurrence of an event, rather data speaks to itself, and if you observe the event long enough, and then you can just say that, okay, the probability of this event to occur is this, because basically the number of times the event occurs divided by total number of times that you have observed the cases. And that typical, the relative frequency or the long run relative frequency is the definition of the probability that R.A. Fisher was proponent of. And what happened is, this is good in terms of many standard problems, but there are lots of problem where this definition does not work, particularly rare event cases. Suppose a medical scientist is working in a rare disease cases where all you have maybe 2 or 3 patients, that's it. Okay, and so basically you don't have any events to estimate the probability of the disease to occur, of prevalence. Similarly, say in the nuclear power plant, what is the probability that a breakdown might happen or a accident might happen? These are the very rare and rarest of the rarest cases, and their estimating the probability is extremely difficult, and nobody really wants to, use this kind of long run relative frequency kind of definition in these kind of rare event cases. In these kind of rare event cases, the probability estimation of rare event cases, Bayes theorem turns out to be, or Bayes probability based statistics turns out to be very helpful. And there are a lot of other aspects also, and turns out which, and I will explain you that this Bayes probability gives a lot of simple solution compared to frequentist method. So Bayesian analysis as a whole, we can say, is a statistical methodology in which Bayes theorem is used to estimate the probability of a hypothesis as data observed. Okay. So I'll start with the concept of conditional probability. So, and Bayes theorem or the Bayes statistics, it's all about modeling the conditional probability that given a certain event has happened or certain data you have observed, what is the probability of certain parameters or to occur of probability of your event of interest. This is the typical scenario that we try to solve with most of the scientific problem, and that is where the Bayes theorem turns out to be a very helpful. It's kind of a natural, fit to many scientific quests. So the conditional probabilities allows us to understand how probability of an event A changes after it has been learned something about some other event B has occurred. If you know a B has occurred, well, would you like to change the probability of event A? So this is the idea. So if you have no idea about whether B has occurred or not, you have pro a certain sense of the probability of A, some estimates of probability of A. But now a new information arrived that B has occurred, or B has happened. Would you like to stick to the probability of A, or would you like to update the probability of A? And it is most likely that yes, we would like to update the probability of A, given that we know that B has occurred. What is the new probability of A? So that is the idea of mostly we want to work with the conditional probability. So, and we begin with the sample space A. S. A and B both even belong to the same sample space, and conditional probability of A given that the B looks just as at the subset of the sample space B. So what I mean by that, so this is my sample space A. Okay. Now B has occurred and this is A. Now if B has occurred, I know that B has occurred. Then I'm thinking like, okay, if B has occurred, what is the chance that A will occur? Then effectively, you just look into this, and with respect, so this is the probability of A when you know that B has occurred. And similarly, this will be the part of the probability of A when you know B has not occurred. So this is one part which you can say that probability of A given B complement, and this is the one part probability of A given B. This is the, and you can say these are the mutually exclusive kind of event. Of course, if you join them, you will get the probability of A. But this is the idea. And when you are saying that I am only interested in A given B, it's like if initially you had the sample space is this, and now your corrected, updated sample space is actually B. And within B, what is the probability that A will happen? So you are looking into a more restricted sample, restricted space, or given that B has occurred in this kind of thing. So the conditional probability of A given B, we define as probability of A intersection B divided by probability of B, and provided probability B is strictly positive, otherwise it's not well defined. So by definition, if you go back, and so basically I'm saying that A intersection B is this area divided by probability of B. So that means this is where we are looking at. Let us consider an example. So what is the probability that somebody will develop a line concern?
Sir, in the previous slide, can you explain the second point? Yeah, I didn't understand.
This one? No, which point you are talking about?
Yeah, that's the one. The second one.
Importantly, according to the Bayesian authors, all probability distribution implicitly, explicitly conditioned on the model. Yeah, yeah. So typical Bayesian setup. I mean, the people who really works on the Bayesian statistics and all probability distribution implicitly and explicitly conditioned on the model. Means effectively, you if you are suppose interested in only probability of A, but it is in a sense conditional probability because it is conditioned on S in that sense. So it is for a Bayesian perspective, every probability is a conditional probability. Because, condition in a sense, probability of, you can say probability of A given A sample space. In that sense, it's also simple probability of A is also a conditional probability, that you can always write probability of A given sample space is equal to probability of A intersection S divided by probability of S. Now A intersection S is probability of A and probability of S is 1. So it's trivially conditional probability in that sense. So, and that is the idea. So Bayesian probabilist always think everything in as a conditional probability in that sense. Okay. Okay, let's consider an example. Suppose I'm interested in probability of someone will develop a lung cancer. Now, I can just look into the world of patients who have the cancer, and then look into the how many of them have lung cancer. So I can say that, okay, probability of lung cancer, somebody will develop lung cancer is something like that. But now if I have additional information that the person is a smoker, would you like to stick to that probability, or would you like to update the probability? By common sense, we know now, we have enough information that says smoking does cause a lung cancer, and we would like to actually improve that probability. So, and if we know that probability of lung cancer and smoking is 0.35 and probability of smoking is 0.4, then conditional probability of having a lung cancer, and given that the person is a smoker, is 0.875, means we are keeping it at a very high level. So this is the idea of basic conditional probability, and we will now gradually develop the base probability, which is effectively deals with the conditional probability only. So now I'm going to introduce a concept of independent event. And the independent event, we can say that A and B, two events are independent event if probability of A given B is equal to probability of A. Means occurrence of event B, basically the event A has occurred, that has no effect on the probability of A. If that happens, then we can say that event B is not affecting the event A. So A and B are independent in that sense. Okay. So this typically, if you look into the textbook, the way it is defined, the independent events is probability of A intersection B is equal to probability of A times probability of B, and that we will come to that definition. But that definition and this definition is effectively the same equivalent definition, and we'll come back to that. Before we go there, I want to introduce another definition called a multiplication rule for conditional probability. Like if you have two events A and B, you can write it as probability of A intersection B as probability of B given probability of A given B. or you can write it as probability of A intersection B as probability of A times probability of B given A. Now you think of it like if A and B are independent, then A given B, you can replace it by probability of A here. So probability of A intersection B is equal to probability of B times probability of A. So that definition is actually coming from here. So they are, that definition and this definition, they are equivalent effectively. Similarly, you can say it here also as well. Probability of B given A will be probability of B, and you can, if A and B are independent, you can replace it here and you can get the same thing here. Now, the set of events, say A1, A2, AN, are partition of the sample space where union of AIs, here must be an AI, actually, yeah. So I'll correct it actually, yeah. Yeah, there must be an AI, yeah. So union of AI equal to S, and then probability of B is equal to, you can write it as summation probability B given AI times probability of AI. Now, Bayes theorem is like, I mean, this is a generic thing. I mean, we'll talk about a little bit simpler way. So suppose A1, A2, AK are the partition of the entire sample space S, and probability of AJ is strictly greater than 0. Then you are interested for all J, and let B be any event B, probability of B greater than 0. Then you are interested in probability of AI given B. So you can effectively write AI given B as probability of A in AI intersection B divided by probability of B. And then probability of B you can write in this way. You can, and then probability of A intersection B you can write as probability of B given AI times probability of AI. Now, so Bayes theorem is just a simple rule for computing the conditional probability of event AI given B from the conditional probability of B given each event AI. So probability of AI is the prior distribution of AI, typically, or prior probability of AI. And probability of B given AI is the conditional probability or the posterior probability of B given AI. Typically, this summation probability B given AI times probability of AI behaves as a normalizing constant. Sometimes it's known as marginal probability. And probability of the probability of B given AI will behave as a likelihood probability, and probability of AI given B will work as a posterior probability of AI given B. Now, if this conditional probability turns out to be very important when particularly we are looking for causation. So suppose if A and B are two events such that probability B is greater than 0, and the probability of A given B is, we can write it as a probability of A and B, or A intersection B divided by probability of B. What is the probability of A when we know the event B has happened? That is what we are actually looking for, probability, conditional probability. So basically, if we go back to our previous example, what we are looking for, what is the probability that someone will develop lung cancer when we know the person is smoker? So this is what we are looking for. All we have to figure out probability of lung cancer and smoking together, and probability of smoking. Turns out directly calculating this probability is very difficult, or I mean, we have to keep asking people how many of them actually are smoker, and then how many of them have lung cancer and also smoker, and then we have to compute the estimates, and turns out to be this is a bit difficult. So here I have used a little bit notation. I have introduced LC for lung cancer and SM for smoker or smoking. And as I said, most of the time we cannot calculate these probabilities directly. So what we did, we applied the Bayes theorem directly. So we are interested in probability of having lung cancer given that the person is smoker. So we can compute the probability of smoker given lung cancer and times probability of lung cancer, and then this is the new denominator we can similarly calculate. Now turns out we have one piece of information called, which says that 1 out of 15 people develop lung cancer in USA. So probability of lung cancer is, we can take 1 out of 15, which is 0.067, and probability of not having lung cancer is 14 out of 15, which is 0.933. So nice, we can use that information. So then we got another piece of information that as many as 20% people who die from lung cancer in the United States every year have never smoked. Okay, if we read that statement as people who have lung cancer never smoked. Okay, and that is 0.2. That means probability who have lung cancer and they smoke is 0.8. So that's a good news for us. And similarly, we found another thing where it says probability of not having lung cancer and also smoke, that proportion is about 0.2. And I actually got these all informations from this source. Now I have all the pieces of informations and I just plug in here. Okay, if I plug them, then turns out the probability of having lung cancer when we have this one piece of information that the person is smoker turns out to be 0.22. But basic population study tells us probability of developing lung cancer is 0.067. So Bayes probability clearly indicates that if we know somebody is smoker, the chance of having lung cancer increases by 3 times. You know, if we just 0.67 means 0.7, so 3 times is 0.21. So almost by 3 times of developing the lung cancer. So the smoking is definitely have a very strong probable cause of lung cancer. So why I'm calling it, it's a very specific term, probable cause, because I cannot cause, you can, any causal effect, you can, typically it's difficult to actually establish the causal effect. So you have to do certain experiment typically, and you have to show beyond reasonable doubt that, okay, this event triggered that output. And then you can say that, yes, this event has caused the, lung cancer. So technically, one way to prove it is you take a couple of, if we can imagine that, we have another world and where nobody smokes, and we have this world where some people are allowed to smoke, and then we see what is the probability of lung cancer and what is the proportion of people who have lung cancer, then what we can say that the chance of having lung cancer is very high, but that is not possible. So we are using some kind of conditional probability argument using Bayes theorem to come up with, to establish a probable cause of developing lung cancer is smoking, and which is very high actually compared to not. If we have that information and we don't have that information, then definitely there is a significant difference between the two probability. Now the independence,
So
yeah.
I have a question, clarification about the way you had talked about the last question. So if you go back to the previous slide, so I think you said something like calculating the posterior directly via frequencies might be trickier than getting the likelihood data. So what you did was you used Bayes theorem to get a posterior from the likelihoods. So is the reason that it's just harder to get the data, or is it because we make assumptions about the causality or something like that? Why is one easier than the other?
No, it's not like easier or thing. So there are certain problems it is difficult. So straight way. I mean, for example, in the nuclear power plant, you simply don't have much data about accident. Okay, so there you don't have any data. Those kind of experiments you don't have a data. Now here in this case, you can do it in directly. You can just look, if you have, you can do a huge survey, and you can use those survey to like check for how many of the people who are actually having the lung cancer and smokers. So this is the basic definition. You can check for how many of them are having lung cancer and they also smoker, and how many of them are actually smoker, and take the ratios of that, and you can calculate this probability. But that will involve cost. On the other hand, what you can do from the typical standard available information, the point I'm trying to make, you can use this available information and to plug into Bayes theorem, and to, because end of the day, what I am trying to calculate is the inverse probability. These informations are already available to us. So I'm just this is opposite probability condition, because this probability is given the lung cancer, among typically what happens, people come to the doctor and that, okay, I have these ailments, and how many can I if doctor checks and that, okay, you have developed lung cancer, then they also check whether you are a smoker or not. So that means given the lung cancer, whether you are a smoker or not, that information is available from the typical hospital data. Okay, so why don't we use that? So that is the information that we have. We are using that information. Okay, so this is what we just use that data, plug it in, and we just that is just one way of getting the thing. It's not, sometimes we will have data, it's not like we will not have data, and if we have data, then we can always use the frequentist method. I mean, nothing wrong in there. But if we don't have data, one way of doing it is and we can use existing tools like Bayes theorem, we can use that. And this is one example that I'm just trying to establish.
Right. So,
with the thing that how, when you are talking about causal effect, then effectively you are talking about some conditional probability, and that is what you have to estimate. And conditional probability you can always estimate using certain survey methodology and collect the data and check into that in causation, or but at the same time Bayes theorem or Bayes tools are available to estimate those causal probabilities. So that is what I'm trying to say.
yeah, just a small follow-up. So you could say something like the size of the smoker population is much larger than the size of the lung cancer population, which is why the costs are different.
Yeah, possible. Yeah.
I'm just asking if that's a heuristic to use to figure out whether inverting it would be better or directly getting.
See, if you have money, we'll go ahead and directly. It's always better to do it directly, but not necessarily we will have always have the money to do that. In that time, Bayes can be the rescue.
Right. I see. Thank you.
So independence is the issue we are going to talk about now. So probability of A given B equal to probability of A. If that happens, then we can say additional information about B has no impact on A. So this is what we were talking about. So probability of A and B times probability of B equal to probability of A. So A given B, we can write it in this way. And probability of A and B is probability of A times probability B. So basically that means my conditional probability and the marginal probability, these two are the same event. They have the same probability. So if we had this probability of lung cancer and the probability of lung cancer given the smoking level, these two probability were very close to each other, we would have said that smoking does not affect the lung cancer. Because of the smoking, you don't chance that you will have a lung cancer. I mean, it's very difficult. We don't think it is going to affect. But here the probabilities are so different that it is very difficult to defend that kind of hypothesis. So so again, as are smoking and lung cancer independent? So clearly they are not, because if you just take probability of lung cancer and probability of smoking, that's coming out to be much smaller than probability of lung cancer and smoking together. So this is one of the picture. It is believed to be a picture of the Reverend Thomas Bayes, who actually developed the probability, the Bayes theorem, the idea of Bayes theorem. Some people say the idea of Bayes theorem was actually already there to an extent was done by I think some peer some works were already there, but it was not explicitly the theorem was in that form, but the ideas were there. That is, I have heard, but we don't know. Some of the applications of Bayes probability. So Bayesian search theory is one of the major application of Bayes statistics to search for the lost target. So USS Scorpio SSN 589 was a nuclear submarine that was lost with all hands, more than 100 hands actually, on 22nd May 1968. To locate the, in the North Atlantic, it got lost. And actually, to locate this lost submarine, Bayesian search theory was actually used. Later it came to know. And so then another thing that was tried, Air France flight 447 from Rio de Janeiro to Paris was lost on 1st June 2009. It was lost in the middle of the Atlantic, and Brazilian Navy actually did use the Bayes theory. I mean, now it is being softwareized by that time, and Bayesian search theory was used to actually locate the some part of the flights, and a couple of bodies were also recovered. I will use now. I'm going to another major area where the Bayes probability are being used is biosurveillance. So I'm going to show you discuss a sort of a little bit cooked up example, but I think that will help you to figure out what is why it is sometimes very natural to think through the Bayes probability. So the probability that a traveler infected with COVID-19 escaped the London airport's biosurveillance system is very small, say 0.001. I'm taking a very cooked up number actually. So I really don't know. I checked for it, but I never found any number which says that, okay, what is the probability that somebody can escape the London airport's biosurveillance system. But I'm just taking it that number. So on a flight from London to Chennai, there are say 180 passengers are on board. So we can believe that the chance that there will be an infected passenger on board is 0.001. So we can say it is a prior probability of an infected person coming in. Okay, so that is the probability of infected person coming in. And we start with, okay, say it's 0.001. Now, once the plane landed, the Chennai biosurveillance system makes every traveler to go through the COVID-19 test on arrival. So the test that they use, and typically what happens, it takes a little bit time. So they keep all the records that who is coming, where are they going to stay and all these things. And they just take the samples and they said, okay, you can go. And if the test comes positive, we will go and will pick you up basically. So the test that they use, suppose there are different kinds of tests, RT-PCR test, rapid antigen test, and so that has a sensitivity or true positive rate of 99.5%. That means basically what is true positive rate? That if a person is infected and test will say that it is positive with 0.995 probability, and specificity is true negative rate. That means not infected, the person is not infected and the test will say it is negative, and 98% times, so 0.98. So it is a bit higher, that it can, specificity is little less. But and actually I looked into the numbers, and most of the tests that are in the market have the specificity and sensitivity in this range actually. Now I am addressing a question. The question is, if one passenger's test become positive, what is the probability that another randomly selected passenger will also be infected? Okay, so this is now what are the information that we have? The information that we have, the sensitivity or the probability that somebody is infected and the test is positive, then will show with probability 995. If not infected, test will show negative with probability 0.98. The prior probability that somebody can be infected is 0.001. Now we have a new information that one test is positive. With that information, one test is positive. What should be the corrected probability of a randomly selected person from that group of 180 passengers is infected? Okay, so I have to update this probability. Effectively, I want to update this probability. Okay, so we apply Bayes theorem. Okay, and how? So on the top, so probability, we are interested in probability of getting infected, given that probability one test is the one test is positive. That is probability of infected and a test is positive, and probability of one test is positive. So that we can write as probability one test is positive given infected times probability of infected. Now that is effectively my sensitivity, which is 0.995 times 0.001. And then my numerator is done. I have to calculate the probability of one test is positive. So one test is positive, you can write it as probability of one test is positive and the sample space. Okay. Now the sample space belongs to two category of people. Some are infected and some are not infected, and they're mutually exclusive. So you can write that one probability of one test is positive is probability of one test is positive, and replace this omega by infected or not infected, the infected complement. And then you can write this as a one test is positive and infected plus probability of one test is positive and not infected, because these two groups are mutually exclusive groups. Either they're infected or not infected. It cannot be happening simultaneously. And then you write one test is positive and infected as a one test is positive given that it is infected times probability of infected, and same way this probability also. And then again, this is 0.95 times 0.001, and this is 1 minus specificity times 1 minus 0.001. So turns out to be this new probability or probability of infected given one test is positive is 0.0474. So this is my new probability. I'm updating my probability of, if I randomly choose another person out of 179, rest of the 179, that another person will be infected. Now is I'm updating it to 0.04 level. So the posterior, that we call it posterior probability after seeing a data or after seeing an information. This posterior probability divided by prior probability, if I check, so now actually I have increased my previous probability of being infected by 47 times effectively. Previously it was 0.001. Now my new probability is 0.0474. So I've increased it to by 47 times from the prior probability. Okay. Now what I'm going to do, it is an assignment for you, and actually I already put it into the Moodle. You have to solve it. Now a new information arrives that a second passenger is being tested positive. So we want to now estimate what is the probability of being infected given that two tests are positive. Okay. So two hint I am giving you. That one first hint is we can update prior probability as you can take this probability of infected given that one test is positive as now your prior probability, and also you can use these two tests are independent, these two information, and then apply Bayes theorem and try to come up with this estimate this probability, the probability of infected given that two tests are positive, a second passenger is become positive. Okay, so that is all we have today. Okay. All right. Anybody have any question?
Just a comment that I'm liking the fact that you're using real data wherever possible. I don't know if that's standard for statistics courses here, but that's really nice.
Mm-hmm. I try to use real data as much as possible. Yeah. Okay, if you don't have any question, then let us close today. I have something in chat box. Let me see. Oh, okay. Thanks. All right. So let us draw close today's session. So remember that assignment will open today midnight. It will be open for 1 week, and there will be no time limit to, you can try, you can take as much time as you want. And there will be 3-4 questions, and two questions I already added. I think I will add maybe another couple of questions. Basically a real life scenario, I mean some application scenario where you have to apply Bayes theorem to estimate the conditional probability. So that will be the typically this assignment will be. Other than that, that's pretty much okay. And
Sir, this is
yeah,
one of the questions as part of the assignment, or
this is one of the question. This will be the first question actually. The question that I have done. It is already there. This question I already put it into the assignment. So you can try to start solving this, and there will be 2-3 more questions other than this particular question.
I have another question. Can you go over what concepts you will go over in this course?
Yeah. So basically, the things that I will cover is this week mainly I will we are going to talk about more Bayes theorem and some applications of Bayes theorem. Then I will move on more towards the Bayesian statistics, where we will talk about how to implement the beta binomial models. So basically you have data which follows binomial distribution, and we typically estimate binomial with some sample proportions, but Bayesians have a very different take for that. So then next topic will be Poisson model, then Gaussian model. Then I will move on to the regression model and typical Bayesian regression, and how Bayesian regression handles issues of multicollinearity, issues of selection, variable selections, and stuff like that. And then different kinds of priors like spike and slap priors and stuff like that. Then I will move on to more basically Markov chain Monte Carlo tools, and how you can use basically what in the Bayesian statistics, what we do, we develop a posterior probability models, but what happens in the posterior probability models is we know the models up to a kernel. We don't know the full models, because if you look into the Bayes theorem, the denominator is very cumbersome, right? It's a sum. And when we go into the continuum space, then it's not anymore sum, it will be an integration, and oftentimes it's a very high dimension integration. In the high dimension solving high dimension, unless we solve that high dimension integration, we don't know the normalizing constant, so we don't know effectively the posterior probability. So how to solve that probability? So solving a posterior probability turns out to be solving a high dimension integration problem. And physicists have worked a lot on solving high dimension integration problems using Monte Carlo simulation technique. So we will move on to the Markov chain Monte Carlo, and I'll see how far we can go. Definitely, we will start with the simple Monte Carlo methods, like simple acceptance rejection, then kind of things, and we will go up to the Markov chain Monte Carlo. And then of course, once we done with the Markov chain Monte Carlo, then what we will do more Bayesian models with typical logistic regression. Then what is the Bayesian models with other kind of discriminant analysis, and then once we are done with the Monte Carlo thing, then we will move on to more applications of the Bayesian models and Bayesian statistics, logistic regressions, and then what else? Discriminant analysis, Gaussian regressions, Gaussian process regressions, and stuff like that. So that's pretty much my plan for the entire semester.
There will be no pre-recorded sessions, right? It will be like this, like every session.
Pre-recorded. So definitely every week we are going to meet Thursday, 11:50 to 1, and I will also try to put some pre-recorded session, and as a sort of before we go into the thing, we would I would like you to go before we join. So technically in CMI, what we have is 2 lectures per week. So the way I'm thinking, one will be the live lectures, one will be the pre-recorded lectures. And that is my more or less idea right now, that one pre-recorded lectures, and if you have any questions that we can get clarified directly on the live classes. Yeah. Any other points, discussion, anything else? And of course, there will be a term paper. And so I would, maybe we can have a discussion on what you want to write and all these things. So think about it, how to write your term paper. And that is going to be a big thing. So we have done, those of you who have done my regression classification course, you already know the drill, that you have to pick up a data set, you do thorough Bayesian data analysis on that, and whatever you are learning, you should apply that, and then write a full-fledged report, or like a, and that will be the term paper, and that has 25% of your weightage. So writing down term paper is going to be a big activity in this class. So other than, of course, the exams and quiz and assignments. So we will be busy. Definitely will be busy. Okay, anything else? So if not, then let's close this session unless you have any particular thing. Okay, then thank you all.